Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Okay, poddies, we are in August. How has this happened? I know I say this at the beginning of every single month, but it does seem to be zooming closer and closer towards my birthday, and that's a good thing. I'm finally going to be 30. I'm finally going to be old. I say old. Everyone who's listening now is like, what? But I'm finally going to be, a real life human being. I've always thought of 30 as actually being an adult, so I'm quite excited for this. I'm looking forward to it. But today's topic is one of those things that I don't know whether it's because I'm coming up to 30 that I think, yeah, do you know what, let's talk about it, or whether it's just that 2019 has been hard for people. And sometimes I kind of sit back and I wait to see where things are going. And other times I'm like, okay, well, I think what sometimes is quite helpful are people who are in my position. I don't know if I call myself a semi-influencer. Is that gross? But sometimes it helps when somebody a little bit further ahead of you kind of gives you the down low on some of the realities that you might be facing or situations that you've been going through. And one of the things that I've noticed about 2019 is, in all honesty, that some of it's been a bit shit. Yay, look at that. I dropped an expletive on the show. We're going to have category E. Woo, woo. Some of 2019 for people has been difficult. It's been challenging, and I've seen it with my friends, I've seen it with my clients, and actually more recently I've seen it in my own personal life, and that definitely affects business. And so I wanted to talk to you about that today, about how actually when life is kicking you in the crotch, ovaries, whatever you've got, how you can still function and still run your business whilst actually giving yourself the space to do whatever it is that you need to do. So here's the thing. Lately, my personal life has been repeatedly kicking me in all manner of places, and it sucks. And I think we have to have that kind of transparency on the podcast. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you what's happened, because nobody needs to get involved. I'm not going to pimp my pain for profit or put a PS at the end to sell something. But sometimes I think it's really important to be transparent. It doesn't matter how successful your business is, and it doesn't matter how successful your personal life is. Sometimes the other thing is just, for whatever reason, going down the toilet a bit. And it can be really hard to focus on business when your personal life is being flushed away. And it can be really hard to focus on your personal life when actually your business is driving you crazy. And because I keep seeing in the market, lots of people having various things. This year has been challenging economically. So for some people, business has been tough. They've been struggling to land clients. Marketing hasn't been working. Facebook have changed their ad system. Some people's email systems have just not been playing ball. There's been lots of business stuff. And then personally, I've watched clients and I've watched myself go through some real crap this year. And it's been tough. People have had different things going on in their personal life that have just meant, for whatever reason, for however long, they haven't been able to fully focus on their business. And I think that sometimes as business owners, we can get so caught up in this, okay, we'll just make more money and then everything will be fine, or, just compartmentalize and then everything will be fine, that we don't actually think about, well, what do we do? Can we plan before something happens, so that our business is always protected, even if things aren't going well personally? Can we do anything during a period of time that is particularly difficult or challenging for us and make any different? And also, should we be expecting ourselves to be superhuman? The answer to that one obviously is no. If life sucks for you, life sucks for you. You absolutely have every right to intensely, dislike things at that moment. But there are a few things that I've found over the last few years of running my own business and, having to operate as a human, which still really bugs me. Robot Jess would be great. That I thought I'd share with you, because if you are going through a tough time, sometimes it's nice to know that other people go through tough times too, even though we don't want to admit that because we think it'll make us seem mean. And B, sometimes, there's no right way for everybody to get through a rough period, but sometimes it's good to hear about what other people are doing and take some inspiration from that. So Let's dive in to my top 5 tips. Look at that. I've planned it out. Top 5. If life is kicking you in the proverbials, what can you do? And I'm talking more like if your personal life is giving you a bit of a kick in right now, what can you do to at least make your business a bit easier so that you can actually focus on solving the problems that you need to solve? So the first thing is you need to wallow. Like, I think a good wallow is largely underrated. And, I think there's this temptation when you're running a business, everyone gets so caught up. They're like, right, okay, well, you just have to keep on keeping on and get into hustle and just like try and forget everything that's happening. And you know what? It's not possible. It is not possible. I've tried it. It didn't work. And in the end, all I've ended up doing is potentially damaging my business more, like trying to be the Energizer bunny when I feel like crap. It just doesn't work. And, whilst I'm not talking about going out and crying on every single client call you have, there's got to be an aspect of professionalism. It's also largely underrated to say, well, actually, no, you don't get, or overrated, sorry, to say you don't get to wallow. So if something in your personal life is happening, take the time. Like, it's okay. Take the time out, sit with it. Figure out how you feel about it. Cry a bit, or if you're not a crier, then eat a lot of ice cream, go for a walk, do whatever you've got to do. But accept that you actually need those things. You can't process something until you've really understood how you feel about it. And so it's really important that, if you are having a tough time, that you don't just try and power through, that you actually take the time to identify what's the problem, how do I feel about it, how do I want to move forward, before you decide how you're going to react in business. The second thing is batching. I know I talk about batching content a lot, and I am pretty obsessed with it. But when something's happening, like when you've got stuff going on in your personal life and you want to keep your business going, you're going to have good days and bad days. And on the good days, I batch, right? So when life is kicking me, on the good days, on the days where I'm like, no, I don't want to just curl up and watch Netflix and never come out of my duvet again, I batch create content. And I'm like, right, okay, how far ahead can we get? What can I do? What can I create? Because I know that for every good day, there's probably going to be a bad day. And even if the situation resolves itself, at some point else, I might get, the flu, or I might have to have a holiday, or I might be sick, or, something else might happen. So batching is never a bad thing. You can never be too far ahead. And in the event that you batch before you have a rough period, great, you've got a load of content you can use. You don't need to do anything. You can sit under your duvet as long as you want, or until one of your friends pulls you out and says no. Like, you have to be a big human now, like let's do life. And in the event that you don't have anything batched, then guess what, on those good days, just that's your nudge. Okay, this is how I'm going to work on my business today. I'm just going to batch content. It means you don't have to necessarily do like the peopling. Sometimes when we're having stuff go on, we don't necessarily want to people. Yeah, that's normal. But batching content is a good way to not people and actually be really productive. The third thing, and I think this is really important, and this has actually really helped me over the years, is to ask for support. Again, I think there's this huge tendency, and actually it was something that Heather Gray and I talk about quite a lot, because she's one of my biz besties and Tara Newman is one of my biz besties. And it's funny because I can talk to them about anything, and I can be totally transparent with them as my biz besties. I can be totally transparent with my best friends. I can be totally transparent with my mom, my family, partners, all that kind of thing. But it's actually really hard, like, to pick those people. So pick well. Ask for support from the right people about the right things. When something's going on in my personal life, I have to talk to people who really know me well. And I'm not saying alienate your communities and stuff, but actually really think about who you need support from and who you're going to get the best support from. What is the matter? What is the problem, and who can help you? I know, for example, if I'm having, a bad day, if I look at myself in the mirror and go, oh my God, I look awful, I need to call my friends. I need to call my friends and say, hey, I'm having a terrible body image day. Like, just tell me that I'm really pretty and, and I'll be fine. If I'm having a business problem, You know, if something's going wrong in my business or something's not working the way I expected, then I need to talk to people who can help support me around that. I can talk to the people I'm in a mastermind with. I can talk to my biz besties. I can talk to my peers. And again, you pick the right people. You know, I'm really, really fortunate in that I'm in a really great mastermind. I'm in Ali Brown's premier group, and the women in there are amazing. And I also have really, really great biz besties that I can say, I'm experiencing this issue, or, you know, can you spin this idea with me? Or, you know, I'm worried about a new launch, or, you know, getting rid of a program, or whatever that might look like. And the key thing is, when you are asking for support, ask the right people, but also actually ask for what you want. There is a big difference between asking for feedback, which if you're going through a really shitty time, it's difficult to accept feedback, okay? That is something that I've learned the hard way. When I'm going through a particularly challenging personal time, sometimes I don't want feedback. I want validation. I want people to pat my head and tell me things are going to be okay. And so it's important to know what kind of support you want and need, and actually be open to receiving that, okay? So if I go into my mastermind, for example, and I ask for feedback, then I'm expecting them to be constructive. I'm expecting them to point things out that I might not have seen. If I go in and say, oh my goodness, life, I'm expecting them to pat my head and tell me that everything's going to work out. So just be aware of that, you know, and take advice and support from people who have, especially if you're taking business advice and support, take it from people who've been there. You know, invest in the right support. Don't go and ask in every single Facebook group, what do you think I should do about this? Because you're going to get tons of answers and end up more confused than you were. You know, really have a solid base. Have, you know, participate in a mastermind, for example, where you can ask for support. Participate in some kind of high-level group program. Get a biz bestie. Have some accountability. Join a great membership. Like, wherever it is that you are going to get the very best level of support, that's what you need to do. And then you need to actually use that support. You know, don't just sit back and be like, oh, everything's fine. And I used to do this, like, for the first, I don't know, 26, 7 years of my life. I'd be like, oh, I'm fine. I'm just always fine. I could have the biggest issues and I'd be like, no, everything's good. And then over the last few years, I realized how isolating that was and how difficult it was for people around me, because it meant they couldn't support me. I could make them feel secure. I could make them feel supported, but they could never reciprocate. And that was actually a really difficult place to put people. You know, it made them feel uncomfortable, like I was always giving and they weren't ever getting to reciprocate. So, you know, just be aware that letting other people help you is good for you and for them. Okay, especially if you're somebody who helps out all of the time. Number 4 is be sensible about what you share and when. This one it comes under the whole don't pimp your pain for profit thing. You know, when you're in the raw trauma of something, and over the years of having a business, I've been through a fair amount in life. There have been family issues, you know, the normal family stuff you experience, bereavements, relationships going a bit south, you know, just normal things that happen in life. Unfortunately, when it's raw, I don't share with my community, with my audience. And often I won't share the exact incidents that have happened or things that have kind of led to that point, because those aren't useful for you. What is useful for you are the learning outcomes. How can we do this better? How can we process this better? What does life look like afterwards? You know, how can we deal with it? Kind of like this podcast episode. How can we deal with crappy situations and make sure that our business doesn't suffer? When you put your audience in that position of bestie, so effectively when we're going around the internet and we're saying, oh my goodness, you know, my dog just died, or, you know, I've just had this awful thing happen, or anything like that. It's not that your audience don't want to and shouldn't want to support you. It's that if you're in the raw, it's very difficult for them to support you because they don't know you like your friends and family and partners. And actually it puts them into a state of adrenaline where they pity you, they want to help you. The only way they can do that really is to buy from you. And that makes people uncomfortable. Okay, sometimes, and this isn't about not being authentic. It's not about not being vulnerable. It's about thinking, is this something my audience can learn from right now? Is this an experience that they can learn from? Or is this something that could potentially drag up, you know, awful memories for them? Is this something that could potentially damage them in reliving the current experience that I'm going through? So we have a responsibility to our audience to, yes, let them know you can be vulnerable in the past tense, like I'm doing right now. I can say, look, 2019 has been no picnic. Business-wise, great. Personal life sucks. But here's the thing, I can say it from now because I'm okay. That's the thing, I'm okay. I can share it from learning perspectives. None of this is about the trauma. None of this is about what has happened or events or anything like that. It's not designed to make my audience feel uncomfortable or piteous. It's to give them, well, this is the learning outcome. This is what I've learned from these experiences. Take it when you need it, right? So just be careful, like be sensible about what you share and when you share it. And be aware that, sometimes there are people out there who are pretty nefarious little toe rags. And if you go out and you share things that are particularly painful or challenging, there will be some people out there who won't be very nice about it. And, when you're going through a hard time anyway, the last thing you want to have is some keyboard warrior make you feel worse. So judge the difference between being authentic and vulnerable, and just making sure that you're also being fully supported by the right people at the right time, and sharing with your audience the learning outcomes or the events if and when you're ready and when it's not raw and traumatic. And then finally, number 5 is see the positives. I've always been a very cynical person and I'm not particularly woo, but I always, in the bad, look for the good. I am a glass half full kind of girl. And for me, that makes it a lot easier to run my business when things perhaps aren't going my way personally, because I look for the positives. Okay, maybe one area of my life isn't going to plan, but what is? What can I do? What can I take control of? What can I enjoy? One of the things that I experience, obviously being a military spouse, is that deployments are hard. They're really hard. And it's one of those things that actually over the years, because I've been very honest about the fact that I am in that position, I've had people message me and say horrible things like, oh, wow, we're not surprised your boyfriend wants to get away from you. We would too. As you can tell, I'm still bitter about that one. The only troll to ever get to me. But the thing is, there's always something good. There's always something you can find, even when I sound like Dumbledore, don't I, from Harry Potter? Even in the darkest of times, there is still something that is good. And I believe that about the world. Even when it is difficult, even when your personal life might feel like it's through the floor, you're like, oh my goodness, like life, give me a bit of a break. There's something else out there that will be positive. And you need to look for that, because it's that positive thing or things that will keep you moving forward. And the worst thing that you can do when life is kicking you in the crotch is to stagnate, is to sit and wallow for too long, right? You get to wallow for a couple of weeks, that's cool. But beyond that point, unfortunately, the wheel kind of starts turning again. And you have to start finding even just one thing every day that you're like, okay, well, that makes me happy, so I'm going to do it. For me, it's always been walking. I love going to the beach for a walk. I'm obsessed. In any weather, the beach always makes me feel better. It doesn't matter if it's raining. I look at the rain on the waves and I'm like, oh, that's so nice. I feel relaxed. And, I come back and I'm absolutely drenched, but I don't care. If it's summer, I look at the sun. I go out during like the time when the sunset comes down, and it makes me feel peaceful and content. And it makes me realize how much I love where I live and how much I love being part of my local community. And that's my good thing sometimes. Sometimes when things feel like they're getting to me, when things feel overwhelming, which they do, because again, I'm not superhuman, sometimes that's my one thing, right? Sometimes my dog is my one thing. I'll cuddle Max and I'm like, oh, everything's okay with the world, for 10 minutes. Sometimes television is the one thing for me, and a new TV show. You'd be surprised how much difference that makes. Sometimes it's my friends, it's my family, it's Sam. Sometimes it doesn't feel like there's a lot to be positive about. But when you start noticing things that you can be positive about, there seems to be quite a lot more that pop up, right? And especially if you can find things when life personally isn't going great, that professionally are. If it's, oh, I got 10 new email list subscribers this week, or, oh, 20 people listened to my podcast, or I got a new client, or actually all my clients are just getting great results, and isn't that fabulous? Once you start looking for those things, you will find more of them. And I think that makes a massive difference. It certainly doesn't stop the rest of your life feeling like a bit of crap. Like, you know, sometimes that just is what it is. You have to wade through the treacle. But when you start looking for the good, you find more good. And I firmly believe that you have to expect good things, because if you don't, you're always only going to be looking for the negative. You're only going to be looking for the ways that you can effectively sabotage the rest of your life, right? So if something happens in our personal life and we're always looking at the negatives, we're like, oh, this is so terrible, everything's awful, my life is horrendous, rah, 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 then guess what? We turn that negative attention onto our business. We turn it onto our relationships. We turn it onto our friends. And then what do you think happens? Well, we act negative with them. We take things out on them. We do things that perhaps are misjudged or miscommunicated, and then things go a little wonky. So, you know, I'm not saying be Pollyanna. If crap things happen. Like, life occasionally does give you a bit of a slap. But at the same time, there will always be something, just one thing a day, that you can find that it just helps you get through the treacle while you feel like you're in it. So that's my top tip for August. I know that, you know, some of you have had a rocky start to 2019. I know that the first half of the year has been a challenge, but we are now in that second half. And so if you have been feeling like, oh my goodness, it's been rocky, everyone else, it's all perfect for them, do you know what? It hasn't been. It absolutely has not been. I can guarantee that whatever you're going through, not to diminish it, but other people will have been there or been experiencing similar things. You are not alone. You know, I think sometimes we put such a big stock on a new year being the best ever, and sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. But the great thing is that I firmly believe it opens you up to other opportunities that really are. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully that's given you some kind of indicator into, you know, how I run my business when things aren't going to plan, you know, when things jump on me out of the blue a little bit. And hopefully that helps you understand that it's perfectly normal to want to run away from your business a bit. It's perfectly normal to ask for support and have a clear expectation of what you want people to provide. You'll have good and bad days. Batch for them, you know, give yourself breathing space. Be really sensible about what you share and when and with who, and try and find those positives, because there always will be one. And if you ever are struggling and you think, actually, I just need somebody to just hear me, then you can always send me an email, jessica@jessicalorimer.com. I might not have any advice. I might not be able to help, but sometimes it's just nice to know that somebody's listening. I really hope you have an amazing week and that you are enjoying the beginning of the summer. I say the beginning of the summer, let's face it, we've been having summer since like June, and the kids have been off school for ages now. But I really hope that you are about to enjoy a really, really amazing August, that it is sunny and bright, and that it holds everything you want in terms of your business, and that this episode's been useful. So if it has, as always, pop me a little note on social media and I will see you on Friday. We've got a really, really cool guest expert coming in on Friday on a topic that I'm really excited about. So I will see you then.